Basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate is the energy expended by the body when at rest. These are the behind-the-scenes activities that are required to sustain life. Examples include respiration, circulation, nervous system activity, protein synthesis, temperature regulation. Basal metabolic rate does not include the energy required for digestion or physical activity. If a person is sedentary or moderately active, basal metabolic rate is the largest component of energy expenditure, making up about 60 to 75% of total energy output. For example, a sedentary person might need about 1,800 calories in a day, with about 1,200 of them being for basal metabolic rate. Basal metabolic rate can vary widely among individuals. An individual's lean body mass, made up of organs, bone, and muscle, is the biggest determinant of basal metabolic rate because lean body tissue is more metabolically active than fat tissue. This means that a muscular person expends more energy than a person of similar weight with more fat. Likewise, increasing your muscle mass can cause an increase in your basal metabolic rate. However, skeletal muscle at rest only accounts for about 18% of the total energy expended by lean mass. Most is used to meet the energy needs of vital organs. The liver and brain, for example, together account for nearly half of the energy expenditure by lean mass. Basal metabolic rate depends not only on body composition, but also on body size, sex, age, nutritional status, genetics, body temperature, and hormones. People with a larger frame size have a higher basal metabolic rate simply because they have more mass. On average, women have a lower basal metabolic rate than men because they typically have a smaller frame size and less muscle mass. As we get older, muscle mass declines and therefore basal metabolic rate declines as well. Nutritional status also affects basal metabolism. If someone is fasting or starving or even just cutting their caloric intake for a diet, their basal metabolic rate will decrease. This is because the body attempts to maintain homeostasis and adapts by slowing down its basic functions, or BMR, to help preserve energy and balance the decrease in energy intake. This is protective mechanisms during times of food shortages, but it also makes intentional weight loss more difficult. Two is the thermic effect of food, or TEF. This is the energy needed to digest, absorb, and store the nutrients in food. It accounts for 5 to 10% of total energy expenditure and does not vary greatly amongst individuals. Physical activity. Physical activity is another important way the body expends energy. Physical activity usually contributes anywhere from 15 to 30% of energy expenditure and can be further divided into two parts: exercise-related activity thermogenesis, or EAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. EAT is planned, structured, and repetitive physical activity with the objective of improving health, participating in a sport like soccer or strength training at the gym. NEAT is the energy expenditure for unstructured and unplanned activities. This includes daily living activities like cleaning the house, yard work, shopping, and occupational activities. NEAT also includes the energy required to maintain posture and spontaneous movements such as fidgeting and pacing. NEAT can vary by up to 2,000 calories a day for two people of similar size. The researcher who first coined the term NEAT may be an important component of obesity and is currently an area of research. Factors affecting energy intake. Given the importance of energy's role in sustaining life, it's not surprising that energy balance is tightly regulated by complex physiological processes. The brain, specifically the hypothalamus, is the main control center for hunger and satiety. There is a constant dialogue between our brains and gastrointestinal tracts through hormonal and neural signals, which determine if we feel hungry or full. Nutrients themselves also play a role in influencing food intake. Because the hypothalamus senses nutrient levels in the blood, when nutrient levels are low, the hunger center is stimulated. Conversely, when nutrient levels are high, the satiety center is stimulated. The hypothalamus is about the size of an almond and serves as the hunger center of the brain, receiving signals from the GI tract, adipose tissue, and blood, and signaling hunger and satiety. Hunger is the physiological need to eat. When the stomach is empty, it contracts and starts to grumble and growl. The stomach's mechanical movements relay neural signals to the hypothalamus. Of course, the stomach also contracts when it's full and hard at work, digesting food, but we can't hear these movements as well because the stomach contents muffle the noise. The stomach is also the main organ that produces and secretes the hunger hormone, ghrelin, the only gut hormone found to increase hunger. Ghrelin levels are high before a meal and fall quickly once nutrients are absorbed. Appetite is the psychological desire to eat. Satiety is the sensation of feeling full after you eat a meal. The stomach stretches and sends a neural signal to the brain, stimulating the sensation of satiety and relaying the message to stop eating. There are many hormones that are associated with satiety, and various organs secrete these hormones, including the gastrointestinal tract, pancreas, and adipose tissue. Cholecystokinin, or CCK, is an example of one of these satiety hormones and is secreted in response to nutrients in the gut, especially fat and protein. In addition to inhibiting food intake, CCK stimulates pancreatic secretions, gallbladder contractions, and intestinal motility, all of which aid in the digestion of nutrients. Fat tissue also plays a role in regulating food intake. Fat tissue is the primary organ that produces the hormone leptin, and as fat stores increase, more leptin is produced. Higher levels of leptin communicate the satiety center in the hypothalamus that the body is in positive energy balance. Leptin acts on the brain to suppress hunger and increase energy expenditure. The discovery of leptin's functions sparked a craze in the research world and in the diet pill industry, as it was hypothesized that if you give leptin to a person who is overweight, they will decrease their food intake. In several clinical trials, it was found that people who are overweight or obese are actually resistant to the hormone, meaning their brain does not respond as well to it. Therefore, when you administer leptin to an overweight or obese person, there is generally no sustained effect on food intake.